All right. So thank you and welcome everyone for being here. Sorry for that rocky start. I'm doing tech myself today. So I know I'm not supposed to do that for all of you virtual event people, but I don't have a choice. So I wanted to thank everyone who registered, thank everyone who is here today, who has donated. We've raised, I think, close to $300 just by all of you who bought a ticket and donated money. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it. And I've had a lot of questions like, what is Scars to Stars and the Realize Foundation, and what do they have to do with each other? So I just want to explain a little bit really quick. So the Realize Foundation is a nonprofit that I created 2 years ago, over 2.5 years ago, because I lost a friend to suicide, and it brought up a lot of my own stuff that I had survived an attempt and been silent about it for 23 years. So that is why I started this, because I felt like my story might have mattered. It might have gotten him to reach out or talk to me. And so I just didn't want to ever feel like that again. So I started this, and at first, Scars to Stars started as like a summit with 15 speakers telling their stories. And then we did a 3-day event, and then we did another summit, and then we started talking about books. And so that's how the books came about. And the books have been a huge success. And I know they've changed people's lives because I get messages all the time from people who are like, well, I bought a book and I read it, and then I shared it with somebody else, and then they came back and told me how it changed their life. And so there's this ripple effect in the world from all of your stories, whether you're here. Some of you have been in both books. Some of you were in the first, some of you are in this second one that's coming out. So I am greatly thankful for each and every one of you and your stories and your vulnerability to share, so that we can help other people know they're not alone. And that's what this is all about. If you haven't been involved before and you are wondering, like, what is all this about? So that's kind of where we are. And what we're going to do today, I'll give you a little overview of what this is going to look like for the next couple hours. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to play a video that is going to show you all of the authors in this second book, and they're gonna talk about their writing experience and being part of the project. And then later we're gonna do a little breakout where we all can meet each other a little bit, and I'll give you an exercise. And then we're gonna play a second video a little later that's each author talking about their own chapter. And then after that, I'm going to tell you at the end how people can get involved and how they can tell their own story if they're interested in doing that. So we have a lot of content coming, and I guess I'm nervous because I feel like I'm like all over the place. But anyway, I'm going to play that next video for y'all, and we're going to get to hear from all of the authors, because that's much more interesting than listening to me talk. So hold on one second.
Writing for me is such an outlet of being able to communicate and understanding my own thoughts and being able to process my emotions. So writing this whole chapter really helped me understand my journey and even process it, and see even where God, sometimes where I didn't even see before, where God was working in ways and in different ways in my life that I didn't see before comes to light when I write. And there is a lot of healing in the writing.
I really felt isolated. I felt alone. I felt humiliated. I felt embarrassed. And allow her to talk. Allow that little person inside of me to say, hey, you know what? This is where I was at that time. It had never occurred to me to share from that perspective before. We all tell stories like, oh yeah, once upon a time, and yeah, that happened to me in the past. And we skimmed over it. And so this really gave that little girl inside me the chance to share and give her a voice and allow her to say how she felt and be heard. And it was some of the greatest emotions I let go of and allowed to come out. It was great journaling, to be honest. You know, I'd never really understood the concept of a story, to share your story and the impact that it can have by sharing it. It was vulnerable, but it was also extremely healing, really, really cathartic.
The initial thought is, you know, we're gonna write our story and how we overcame something and be vulnerable about it, and it's gonna help someone else get through their struggle. And I absolutely 100% think that is true. But what most people don't realize when they write in one of our books is that it's going to impact them as well. And most of the time, it's in a healing way, because when we write our story, we tend to process it better. We tend to understand more things about ourselves that we didn't maybe understand before. And through that process, it helps us. It helps us heal, it helps us understand, and it helps us grow.
Well, full transparency, this is the first time I've ever written a book, you know, and you know, when you had told, I had a couple of days when you told me, I just had a couple of days to write it, so I just kind of just wrote it down. I even hit the amount. It was a little shorter than it was supposed to be, but it was really good. And just before we started speaking, I was saying, you know, that this is something that it was an opportunity for me to really get my thoughts down on paper. You know, it's a short story, but I think it's something that really everyone should do, because as you start writing down, it's really a process of being able to clarify your thoughts. I would write something and then, you know, you get them down on paper. So it was really, for me, it was a great experience, and I look forward to, you know, doing that again in the future.
You know, Dina, it is so hard to put words on paper about yourself, especially when it's things that maybe you haven't thought out into clear crystal thoughts in a long time. It's easy to experience the feelings or just go through them and I guess process them on sort of a subconscious level. But when you have to actually put those words on paper and reread them, it's a changing process. I'm not going to say it's difficult. I think it's growth. I think it's part of becoming a better person, is being able to articulate some of what you have struggled with and how you dealt with it, and then learn from it. And I think the purpose of the chapters and the purpose of your whole book is to help others who may be dealing with the same thing, or to learn how they can see a way out of a situation, or a way through a difficult time, or even just a way to better and improve themselves. I think as a species, we should always be improving. And I know I spent several years just surviving.
I've been able to meet a lot of amazing people who have passed on from my life. And even though there's sadness, it's all about living life, because even though people are on loan to us, they're here for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. I'm a great believer in that. And recently I've changed jobs, and I've been able to really see how those stories and how the loss has helped others grow. And I find myself in conversations, and we are more alike than we are different. So the chapter is could be a little dark for some, but it also shows the strength and the grace that people have, and the things that we are able to overcome. So it's been an amazing experience, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
I felt really, really good about writing this time round. I don't have the anxiety I did with the first chapter. So my message to everyone is, if you feel like you can't write, start writing. Just put your thoughts down and then rearrange them afterwards. It can be it's also a little healing too. And you learn more about yourself too in writing.
Well, my experience overall, it should be pretty obvious that because I'm back, I had an amazing experience the first time. I think you, Dina, are amazing to work with. So organized and driven and focused as far as, you know, bringing the right authors together, really having a vision for the project, keeping us moving forward. I mean, it's just such a joy to work with you and to work with the editor. Together, I feel like you're a real powerhouse team and created an amazing experience for me. I think I've used that word 3 times now, but a really seamless, let's use something else, a seamless experience for me as a writer. I have the benefit of not being a new writer. I've been writing for a long time for magazines. I've published several of my own books and written blogs and all kinds of other stuff. So the trepidation about writing in and of itself isn't there, but it can still be scary to share your story. And I guess if someone watching this is a potential author thinking about sharing their story here, or maybe just on your own blog or wherever, I think what I would say to you is an experience that isn't shared is wasted. So if you've gone through something that's been really challenging and you've overcome it and you've learned some things along the way, then, why not increase the value of that experience by sharing it with others? I mean, I really think there's a gift in that, not just for the people you share it with, but also for you. Because, what's happened to me when I've shared my stories is people have come to me and told me how much it helped them. And it helped me to see that story, while it may have been very difficult to endure at the time, had a real purpose.
I actually was in the first book you had me be in, and that was the first time I had actually written my story and put it out there. I have spoken my story, I don't know how many times, thousands of times, been on hundreds of stages, but it was the first time I wrote it down. And last time it emotionally just wrecked me. And it was just an amazing experience. So I thought I was prepared for this time. When I came in, I'm like, okay, I've done it before, I can do it again. And Dina will tell you that I had to rewrite it and write it over again because there was just so much that I had to pour in, and it was just an amazing experience. And there's a lot of things that I didn't know I had to deal with that I was dealing with while I was writing this. So again, it challenged me, it pushed me, and it was just an amazing experience to really get that down on paper. And it helped me to articulate what's going on with my life even more than what I've already been doing. So very grateful for that opportunity.
And so through the writing process of this chapter, I realized it's not about fear. It's about being resilient and, processing the feelings as they happen and being optimistic. So not faking positivity, but saying this is how I really feel, but I'm still hopeful that there's something next for me that is going to be amazing. Mm-hmm. And there always is.
So I was referred to this project from a friend in the same industry as me. And when she told me about it, I was like, yes, let's do it. I have been sharing little snippets of my story here and there, on social media. I have a pretty large following. And so, and really, this is the first time that I've actually gotten to put it on paper and get it out there. And I hope that, it was hard. It was scary, actually, to have that come out and be like, oh, God, what did I just write? But at the same time, I was like, I can do this. And I think that every person that's a part of this project is courageous and amazing for just being able to undertake something like this and put their story out into the world. It's so helpful for other people to be able to hear things like this. Maybe they didn't go through the same thing, but it's just really nice to be able to know, like you said, you're not alone.
It was a learning process. It was therapeutic in a sense, trying to summarize all this up into a cohesive manner, because I speak about things like this all the time, but having to condense it in a way with a beginning and end and an actual goal for the format was interesting. And going through that whole process, I actually dug up some things that I wasn't even ready to deal with yet. And so it was very interesting. And so as much as I'm hoping to help someone with what I wrote, I could say writing it actually helped me, going through that whole process, getting it out and thinking through that, and basically going through that again, reliving all those emotions was very therapeutic for me personally.
And that I had an opportunity to bring voice to my experience. I have always felt that I've always aired my dirty laundry, so to speak, because we all have it. We're all in this human soup together. So yes, this writing process unfolded so much more than I ever imagined, for which I'm exceptionally grateful, because I'm also offering a bunch of online courses through my school, Oracle Arts. So you were the impetus, and I was saying yes, and I was ready to write, and it led to all of these other beautiful things that I dare say exceptionally beautiful, that I'm so delighted and honored to present to the world.
Well, being part of the Scars to Stars project has been very therapeutic for me, for one. From listening to other people's stories of triumph, even after suffering from some very traumatic experiences. And, I got to tell you, some of those experiences are I can't imagine sometimes going through those. I mean, I've got my own stuff, but sometimes I read their stories and listen to their stories, and I just don't know how they do it or did it. But that, and getting down on paper what my personal experiences have been, has gone a long way to making me feel like a human being again, and not just some discarded piece of trash like it felt when I was in the police department. So the way you have it set up, that we get together on a regular basis on Zoom calls together, and we all contribute to the Scars to Stars Facebook page, and we're always amongst like-minded folks who care for and support each other. So that in and of itself is it's very supportive and very therapeutic at the same time.
When you have that level of intimacy within something, you can be overcome in some respects and put something down and say, hey, that didn't affect me, I didn't change. Mine's always about leaving a lasting memory for someone to say, you know what, I'm taking something away from that I can use in my day-to-day life, whereas, hey, that's something I didn't realize before, and it was impactful. And that's really I believe what the goal is always going to be within these type of books, and I think that they need to be.
It's almost like it was living in this imaginary realm of my mind, and then I wrote it, and now it's become a fact that nature holds and gives back to me. And when I wrote it, and it was edited, and some things that I thought were important that were taken out, I could tell that it was better, that I didn't need to put that idea of how my experience maybe in a relationship with someone else, or being in front of an audience, or being hosted by a specific individual, didn't need to be part of the story, because it was my interpretation of who they are without actually knowing who they are. And when I wrote it and read it, I was so grateful to see it on paper and have an opportunity to share with others in a refined way. And I know it will serve them, and it makes me want to write more.
Being a part of this, it kind of pushed me to be okay, because it gave me the accountability, right? It's kind of like you're 1,000 miles away, but it's like this sense of connectiveness where you pushed in a nurturing kind of way to say, okay, I understand, and that's okay, right? But you got to get this out of you, right? And that was so life-saving for me, because it's easy to slip into that isolated, dark place, and to put that coat back on that, okay, I'm gonna show up, but I'm still carrying this thing. And so writing and being a part of this project at this very instrumental time in my life has been kind of like the defibrillator that I need.
It basically was all the lessons I learned in treatment, and it was about not only proving it to other people, but proving it to myself.
Yeah.
So bear with me. I'm just trying to remember all the questions that you asked me. Was it therapeutic? Absolutely. That's really one of the best ways that I should be coping as. I do love to write. I do love to speak. I do journal. I journaled everything that I learned in treatment, which is part of what you read in that chapter, that poured out in that chapter. And it helped me heal. I'm still healing, you know, I still have a long way to go, but it is nice to have that chapter because it really is a reference for me. It is a way that when I fall down, I can go back to the lessons that I learned and pick myself back up. It's a lesson of where I've been and where I can go.
Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Sorry, guys. These videos are my favorite part of the whole experience because we do, you know, all of you that are authors know this, but the rest of you may not. And what we do is we do a live interview with each person about their chapter. And we cut out clips of those interviews to make these videos. And so you get to hear, you know, a little bit from each person. I think it's so important because, you know, I was part of a couple anthology books prior to COVID, and I never even got to meet the other authors. There was no marketing, there was no anything. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about the way we do these books, is because it's creating community, and it's getting people to know each other in a way that they can support each other in times of need, and sharing our stories. And I know I've heard several people throughout these projects say, you know, I haven't been through anything like what somebody else has been through. And that's not necessarily true. I think we all have our own journey. We all have our own obstacles, and they're all important. They're all hard. And I think, you know, comparing anything that you're going through to what someone else has been through is not necessary, because all of it's hard and it's all valid. And so I wanted to just share a little more about what our mission is and introduce our board members that are here. And, you know, our mission is, number one, to reduce suicide rates. Like, that is the absolute mission. And I think that in my experience of being silent for so many years about my own experience, I think it's because I never met anyone else that had been through what I had been through and made me feel like it was okay to talk about. So it's like we hide these things because we feel like we're the only ones that are going through this and nobody could ever understand, which is so not true. There's so many people in the world that are going through similar things and hurting and wanting to talk about it. And then we're all just, you know, hiding it from ourselves because we think we're the only one. And that's what these projects are all about, is how do we let people know they're not alone? You know, it's so important that people can read our story in a place. Like, if there would have been a Scars to Stars book in the late 1990s or 2000s, when I was stuffing all my emotions down and not talking about them, I could have read a story in the comfort of my own home, in the privacy of my own home, and known that someone else was going through something similar. But I never came across anything like that. And that is the reason this is so important to me. So what I would like to do is introduce Lisa. I just noticed you had your hand raised. I'm sorry. But you should be able to unmute yourself. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I didn't mean to raise my hand. I don't know how I did that. Sorry. Hi, I'm Lisa Rogers, and I'm the current president of the Realize Foundation. And what I love about Scars to Stars is it gives us a vehicle for our mission and our message to reduce suicide rates through the identification, which we need. For so many years, I suffered from terminal uniqueness. I just thought I was the only one. And finding a community of people who have maybe not necessarily been through the same thing. It's really not about the details, it's the feelings. And so finding identification at the level of feelings is so important. And then having those awkward conversations, the taboo conversations, and so, you know, some of those stories in the books are challenging to read because they stir emotion, and that's not a bad thing. But we get to see that not only do people struggle in similar or different ways, but we all feel the same. And then some of our solutions are different. And so maybe there's a solution in some of those stories that we haven't even thought of before. So it gets the conversation going. The Scars to Stars books and you know, virtual events and so forth gets people talking. And I think that's the whole point is when we talk to people, we can identify with them and realize that we're not alone. Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. You always have wise words that I never think about. So thank you. You do. So the next person I would like to introduce is Dan. Welcome, Dan. Are you okay?
Thank you, Dina. Yeah, I agree with Dina. I was going to just say what Lisa says. It was on target and poignant. My name is Dan Walkowitz. I'm the treasurer of the Realize Foundation. I've been blessed to not have gone through so many of the things that folks who are authors in, haven't read the second one yet, but in Scars to Stars, where I was one of the authors, it blows me away and opens my mind to an appreciation of how bad it can be and how amazing it is that people have faced those demons, not only come out of them, but used what they've learned for the benefit of others. And Scars to Stars allows all of us to share those experiences and what we've learned. And that is the blessing that Dina has always wanted. And it's a delight to see Volume 2 now available. I love this project and certainly the mission, and just want to give kudos to Dina, as I do often, because she's an amazing person, and what she's done with the Realize Foundation and Scars to Stars is equally amazing.
Thank you so much, Dan. Dan has been a huge supporter from, 2.5 years ago, from before this even started, I think. So I'm always thankful for your support and your knowledge and your, kicking me in the butt when I need it, because you're like, maybe I need to do something differently than I am. There is one board member, James, who is not here. He is a flight paramedic in the Northeast, and he is on shift right now, but he wrote in the first book about first responders, and he had a huge response to his chapter and his, field. And if any of you know any first responders, I would love for them to read his chapter. It was absolutely amazing. And the other person I want to introduce is Anita. Anita is new to our board, and I'm going to start with our next board meeting, but I want to introduce her because she has been involved in Scars to Stars from the very beginning as well, and she's a dear friend. So Anita, you want to unmute yourself? Can you unmute yourself? Here, please. Okay.
I'm Anita. So yeah, I attended Dina's virtual event last year, and it was very eye-opening for me. Just gave me the encouragement to make some life changes in my life, and her cause is very near to me. I lost a cousin through suicide, and I have a daughter who attempted suicide at 15, and so we're on that daily just check in with her, making sure she's well equipped with all that she needs to, get the help that she needs and counseling and just being able to speak up for herself and use her voice. So yeah, I'm excited to join the board and see what we can do to get the word out. Mental health is something that's very real, and everybody struggles with something in one way or another. But if we can be that voice that somebody hears and just bring that encouragement to them, or just that voice, it's worth it to save just one person's life.
Yeah. Anita, would you also share what you do for a living? Because I think it's important.
Yes, so I am a 911 dispatcher for Pueblo County Sheriff's Office. I just started in June. I was with Lake County Sheriff's Office for 3 years prior to that. And I am learning a lot. I'm still in training up in Pueblo. It's a very different, it's very different from where I was at here in Leadville, in a small community, to a city and a county. So yeah, and I love enjoying, just helping those people. We get multiple calls at any given time for, people who, are thinking about ending their life. We had one the other night, a young teenager. Her parents knew she wasn't feeling very good, and the call was landed up being the city's call, but yeah, she took some vodka and some other medication to try to, and I think they were able to get her to the hospital and get her help. But it's discouraging to know that people just feel so bad about their lives that they can't reach out to somebody and just speak up. So if I can, be that voice, or just, bring encouragement wherever I go, that's my plan through this organization.
Thank you so much, Anita.
Thanks.
So I want to talk about, I think we've kind of talked a little bit about this, but I want to talk about coping mechanisms for a minute, because we have a resource on our website at realizefoundation.org. Under the resource page, we have something that you can download, and it has 60 ideas of coping mechanisms. And when I first created that, I think it was at our 3-day event last year. So I know like Bill and Anita were there, and maybe a few other of you. And I created that, and I never really thought much of it. And I was speaking at I was speaking at something a couple months ago, and it was to like business people. And I mentioned that we had that. If anybody wanted it, they could email me. And I had 5 people email me asking for it. So I was like, maybe this is something that people really want. So it is on our website. Anybody can download it. It's just a bunch of ideas of things that you can do that maybe can help you get through something, whether it's depression or anxiety or PTSD or bipolar or whatever it is. I know there's a laundry list. So that's available to all of you. And I think that, my favorite coping mechanism is music. I have a playlist for like everything. And it's really important to me to be able to listen to music, and it can change my mood for sure. And the other thing that we're going to talk about a little more in a little while is gratefulness. And it's hard to let the negative take over when you're thinking about things that you are grateful for. So that's something we're going to talk about in our breakout in a little while. So what I want to do next is I want to show you it's like a 30-second video, and it is we're an affiliate for a company called Cope Notes. And what that is it's a texting app that sends you texts every day, and it's a subscription. And so the link that we have is an affiliate. So if you sign up for a subscription through our link, they give $5 back to the Realize Foundation. And Johnny Crowder, who started it, he grew up with a laundry list of mental health diagnoses. And when he was in high school, his mom finally said, either you're going to take your meds and you're going to go to therapy, or I'm going to put you in the hospital. And so he went to therapy, and he said he felt pretty good after going to therapy, but like it was every 2 weeks. And he's like, so what am I going to do for the next 13 days? And so I think he's 30 now. He started Cope Notes a few years ago, and it's been a huge success. So I'm going to let him tell you how it works in 30 seconds. And then I'm going to, then we'll move on to the next thing. Hold on just a second. I'm so bad at this. Share screen. Okay.
As a suicide and abuse survivor, I know how complicated life can get. And that's why I wanted to keep Cope Notes as simple as possible. We'll text you once a day, but you never know when we'll reach out or what we'll say. And over time, this trains your brain to default to healthier thought patterns. We'll send you psychology facts, exercises, advice, encouragement, but none of that stuff is going to change your life. Only you can do that. We're just here to help.
So Johnny is.
If you're a woman
oops.
over 40 and you want to
Stop. Johnny is, there's actually a video, interview video of Johnny and I on our YouTube channel if you want to hear more about his story. And he gives we talk a lot in that video about what would have helped him as a kid and what advice he had for parents and those kind of things. And one of the biggest things that I remember him saying is spend time with your kid, not asking them if they're depressed, but talking to them about something they enjoy. Like what are they looking forward to, a game or whatever it is. He said, this is a quote from him. I postponed my own suicide for a concert I wanted to go see. Like that's what he told me when he was a teenager. So I think it's important that people have things to look forward to, and we talk about the future, and we talk about, what's that thing next week that's so important for them to be excited about. So that was the big advice he gave me, but there's a whole conversation around that if anybody wants to hear that. Let's see. So we're going to do a breakout. Jeremy, you all good? Okay, he said yes. So we're going to do a breakout in a minute, but I want to talk to you about gratefulness a little more. It's something that really, I think in 2020, for those of you who don't know, I lost a business that I had for 10 years. We were having our best year ever. It was super successful and I lost everything. So during that time, I had also lost my friend to suicide, and I was trying to process my own mental health journey and process losing a business and all of that and going through bankruptcy. And during that time, I think the two things that really helped me the most were gratefulness and journaling. And I don't know how I would have gotten through that time without those two things, and music, of course. But I found somebody that gave me this. It is Grateful Dice. And what it is it's two dice, and one of them has, I know some of you have heard this multiple times, but one dice has like the whole alphabet on it, and this one has numbers on it, 1 through 10. So when you roll them, it'll give you a number and a letter. And so the game is we have to come up with 4 things that start with an H that we're grateful for. So we're going to go in a breakout and we're going to talk about this. And if you have things you're grateful for that you want to talk about and they don't start with an H, that is still okay. So Jeremy, are you ready to put us in breakouts? All right. So I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes in the breakout, and just take turns talking about what your things are that you're grateful for. And then once everybody's had a turn to do that, you can talk about whatever you like. And then we'll give you a 60-second warning that you're going to come back to the main stage. Have fun. Jeremy's working on it. think he's still listening.
Everybody should have something that says join breakout room. Just click on that. It'll take you right in.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, no problem. Just didn't automatically put them in. That's okay.
That's okay.
That is quite all right. We're getting there.
I'm just going to stop the recording.
Okay.
Okay, everybody. Does anybody want to share about their breakout and something fun or cool that y'all talked about? You can just unmute yourself. Go ahead, Christy.
So I had the pleasure of meeting with Daryl, and I was just kind of picking some words out, and then I had picked the word help, and just learning, because my chapter that I wrote was really learning how to ask for help. And then Daryl brought up his H words, which were honesty and humility. And I thought it was really cool because ours all kind of came together. Because asking for help requires being honest with yourself, and then also humbling yourself, because we don't have all the answers. So learning that it's okay to ask for help. And then another word I had was healing, and those things can lead to healing. So
awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Those are really good ones.
I thought we made a really good team. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to figure out how we can work together again.
I thought so too, Daryl.
Knowing both of you, I can see that. Does anyone else want to share? I don't think I can see everybody on my screen, but.
Hi, it's Felicia. I will.
Hi, Felicia.
Well, I'm very honored that I got to work with Joy, who I know from the first book and some other things we've done together. And I thought Joy's answer was fantastic. She talked about home, not just the home that you live in, but also the home of the people who make up your community around you, and specifically talking about the home here that she's found with the Scars to Stars folks, and being so excited to be back in the fold of that today. And for me, it was a combination of health, healing, humor, and the hands of a doctor that's been taking care of me recently being skilled. So we really enjoyed our talk together, and we might have talked about some other things too. So I'm just happy. I'm very happy that Joy was my partner. Thank you.
Awesome. And I'm glad to see you, Joy. And for those of you who don't know, Joy and Daryl were in the first book. So is there anybody else who wants to share? Okay. Well, the time has come that we are ready to put the link to the book in Amazon in the chat. And we're going to ask everybody, if you haven't already purchased a book, to go on Amazon and tell us in the chat if you like Kindle or you like paperback. So that's what we're going to do right now. And then we're going to see another video with all the authors talking about their chapters. So I'm going to start playing that while you're getting your copy. All right, let's see.
The title of my chapter is Wildflower, or Waiting to Bloom, and it's about finding hope in my infertility journey. And this was about 3 years ago. But my husband and I, we had a long struggle with infertility, and just walking that journey and finding hope through that journey during the years of waiting and kind of in the wilderness, and really just learning to rely on God and strengthening our relationship with each other, and also learning that it's okay to ask for help. And because you struggle with infertility, it doesn't make you any less valuable. We are all worthy, and really accepting help is a sign, is a sign of strength and also bravery. And I just had a really hard time acknowledging that I needed help at the start.
My chapter is at a time when I was quite young and naive, and it's before I had a real grasp of what was going on with the world. And so the experience of having a community and having that sense of comfort, having a sense of familiarity, and not ever questioning where you're going, what you're doing, who's with you, and how we didn't, we could say we could take it for granted, but I was too young to understand what being taken for granted meant, or the experience of that. So once I was removed from that community and lost that sense of comfort and familiarity, there are many things that came after that. And I think there's a lot of things people can relate to, because change is inevitable. We know this as we get older, but when you're younger and you're put into it for the first time, basically, that change and the unraveling of everything and the effects of people around you, people you don't know, people who judge you from the outside, and what it does to you internally, what it reflects on the outside, and how you can carry that around with you for a really long time.
And my chapter is called Invisible Scars. And what that means to me is that we never know what the person next to us is dealing with. It could be our spouse, it could be a colleague, it could be a total stranger, but we have no idea what they're dealing with that you know nothing about. And I think it's really important for us to think about that and think about the people around us. And we're always so involved in our own stresses and our own schedules and all that we tend to live in our own head, and that's okay. But when you have a chance to show kindness to someone else, you never know, like opening the door for somebody or saying hello, and how much that may impact them if they're having a really bad day or they're struggling with something.
Yeah, sure. It's about facing the why of addiction. Just to lay it all out right off the bat, I was struggling with porn addiction for a long time. And the reason no one really taught me how to express my masculine energy. And in a world where we're told toxic masculinity, I would kind of hide that masculine part of me. And it led me to a point where I would just ask why. And when you peel back a few layers of why, it makes people very uncomfortable. So it's no wonder why I could never really find answers. So, but once I got to the point where I really started going within myself and trying to really, understand that we're all the same at the end of the day, that we have an animal body, we have, desires, and how to, connect with God and tie that in. It's how to be in the world, but not of it.
It wasn't easy for me. I decided to write a chapter about somewhat of my journey over the last 3-4 years, and just my transformation from kind of just being a participant in life to deciding to take some direction. And a lot of that leads to me learning about the community where people can hire coaches and invest in themselves and get help with certain mindsets or learning, or even just thought processes that they may not know about. And me investing in my first coach is really what drove my chapter and the changes that has made in my life.
My story is called The Formula of Grief, and it's based upon my life and the tragedies that have happened within my life. I'm a suicide survivor. I've had many attempts, many different hospitalizations and things of that nature. I've been through therapy and all different kinds of things, and I was always ashamed of it. But when I actually look around and through this project, I've taken a look at myself and realized that I'm no different than anybody else. It's not to be ashamed. Mental health is not something to be ashamed of. Even loss, we can grow through loss. And this chapter here walks through all of the deaths that have happened within the course of my life that have changed me in some way or given me an opportunity to grow and learn from, whether I chose to or not.
So the chapter is really about my entrepreneurial journey and what I learned along the way and what I want to teach other people. I mean, I'm going to give you an example of one of the things that I've learned is that as an entrepreneur from the very beginning, we all think that we have to wear all of the hats and do all of the things necessary. If you're an entrepreneur, you understand that. If you're not, we are the accountant, the telephone answerer. We do all of it, everything before we get to do the work that we chose to be an entrepreneur for. So I wanted to kind of distill that myth a little, because what I learned is that had someone given me some tools, I would not have done all of that with my business. So I am really trying to share that with others so that you know that we don't have to work 50, 60 hours a week. I know we all wear that like a badge of honor, but it's not real. We don't have to do that.
One of the stories is about going through the 2008 recession and how that affected my business, which basically was a closure and then a bankruptcy. And, you know, I know I've heard a lot of stories lately about people having business concerns with the pandemic and then, you know, some things going on currently in the economy and maybe the future. You know, part of being a business owner is worrying about your business like all the time, I think. So I'm sure that anybody that owns a business or that is an entrepreneur is considering doing that, has had some of the thoughts and had some of the potentially some of the experiences I have. And I really wanted to share this story because I think it's really important to know that having a struggle like that or going through a closure or bankruptcy is just a part of business. It's not a failure. And I'm excited to share some of my insights and ahas and lessons from that.
My chapter is about the struggles that I went through in life with health issues that I had, a lot of heart conditions, other problems and struggles, and how that really changed the way that I think about life and how I approach life. This was definitely a time in my life where, well, it's been a long road, like Dina was saying, and scare is kind of an understatement. There's a lot of times where I didn't know if I was going to live or die. And like I said, it really helped me to find different ways to focus my mind so that I can move forward and overcome through the different trials that I have and do what I do today and be here and be a part of this awesome book and sharing my story with people.
I wrote about how it's okay to not be okay. And what that means is I talked about my childhood, which was filled with child abuse, and the things that were done to me and the things that I did and the harm that I caused, and that we don't have to hide from our painful past and we don't have to hide it from anyone else. And I found that through the power of storytelling, of sharing my story and having other people share their stories with me, I found out that I wasn't alone, that there were many, many people who experienced the same thing I did. I always thought I was so different from everyone else and beyond help, and just connecting with people, having that human connection and sharing stories and identifying and being able to put it all out on the table and have somebody look at me and accept me and not judge me the way that I was judging myself was so helpful. And that even if you don't grow up being told you're good enough, you're smart enough, or having that encouragement, like there are other ways to tap into support outside of your biological family, and find people who will love and support you and accept you no matter what.
So my chapter is called A Series of Unfortunate Events, and so that's really what it's about. When I write, I feel like writing kind of comes through me, right? I don't think about what I'm writing; it just sort of comes through. And what came through for me was the 8 years that I spent going through my divorce in my first marriage, and it was really rough. A lot of things happened during that time. Everything from dealing with drugs, alcohol, custody problems. And then, the message really is no matter what you're going through, you can get through it and there's light on the other side. And so that's really the message that I wanted to send. I wrote a lot about my story and less about how I got over what had happened, but it was because the story needed to be told, I think, more than the overcoming of it, because things can just get so crazy in your life, and you think that there's no way out, but there always is. There's always a way out.
So, of course, mental health is something that is very important to me, as with you and most likely anyone that's really watching this. But certain things, especially as guys, we don't really speak about these things and what have you. And the chapter that I wrote was about the irony of life, which was really based upon a speech that was at my high school graduation. And so many things could go wrong in life. And as with everyone, definitely a lot has gone wrong in my life. And even just before this interview, for example, I'm at work here, and as you can see, I'm in the vehicle right now because I literally just ran out, avoid some crisis. Our tech guy is on leave, and I'm me back up, if you will, and we lost all power, all the registers, everyone, all the customers are in the place, and they're all looking at me. And I was up the road, so I literally ran back and set this whole thing up to get it working. So it's kind of on topic right before I do this interview that things are going to go wrong in life, and that was really the gist of the chapter, in the sense that, when I left high school, or all my life, I always had all these plans of how I wanted everything to go. And the irony is nothing really goes to plan, but enjoying the journey of life.
My story, to encapsulate it, it centers around an experience I had when I was 13. And I was sexually abused at the hands of my then stepfather, my current stepfather. Awesome. Yet in that moment, right, the moment that began to define the rest of my life, I chose to write about it. It really was what happened after the fact. That experience as a young girl, highly impressionable. I was bright and shiny and just flitting about in life, and suddenly, wham! It was a life-changing experience. It altered the direction of my life. It changed how I relate to myself, to others, to the world. I became hypersensitive, and so my book details, yes, the experience that altered my life as a young lady, and then led to how I was engaging the world at large, and holding on to shame and blame and guilt and all of those things that occur as a result of something like that, naturally.
So as a young man, I knew that I wanted to become a professional photographer. I had the camera in my hands since I was like 8 years old. And I wasn't allowed to go that route, and when I got older and was going to college, so I eventually became a police officer in my hometown of Worcester, Mass. And from the time that I was in the police academy, it just became very clear that I didn't fit into their mold. I solved problems using my head, my heart, and the law, while many of my peers did it through brute force and intimidation, treating the public like the enemy. So that began a 10-year period of me being blackballed, bullied, and treated like a pariah, which resulted in me suffering from some pretty severe anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress, and now obsessive compulsive behavior. And that's now been going on, either being in that toxic work environment or suffering from these things for the last 28 years. But through burying myself into my hobbies, things like photography and listening to music whenever possible, riding my Harley all around New England, like you mentioned, looking for places to get iced coffee, ice cream, or goats. That keeps me grounded.
It really is the story of my daughter's life, and then through the stages of up to and including your death, and how I got to the point of celebration and be able to celebrate her life and what it means to me and how it can affect and impact others.
Okay, my chapter is about me, and it starts with the idea that we're all stars, because our hearts are beating and electricity is pulsing through our bodies. And when I started to investigate this idea, I wanted to find out who I am, and I wanted to challenge myself and put myself through something difficult, and no matter what, come out on top. And I did that with some performance in the world, acrobatics and acting, and it really challenged me, and it burst my ego bubble, and it also introduced me to who I am and what I'm capable of. And my chapter is about that story.
My chapter was called The Next. And it talks about that journey of forgiveness and what that looks like when you're fully stepped into forgiveness. We talk about forgiveness and we offer forgiveness often, right? But yet there's still patterns that may come up and arise, or behaviors that it's evident that forgiveness has not really kind of manifested within your full being, and it's affecting different areas of your life.
My chapter is really about change. My title was, If You Want to Change Your Life, Prove It. And I wrote that I was in treatment 3 years ago because I struggle with alcohol use disorder and depression and anxiety and many other things. And I learned a lot in that treatment program. And I started writing books after that. I gave a TEDx talk and a commencement speech, and mental health and addiction really became my passion because I struggled with it for so many years. And, when I was doing well, I wrote that chapter because that's what I learned in treatment. And I basically took the treatment process and how it related to change.
So good to watch that and hear all of you talking about your stories and what you've been through and what you've overcome, and where you are now, and how it's helping other people in the world. And it just makes me feel really good. And I know a lot of it is hard stuff, and we probably will, go through it in some way for the rest of our lives. But, I think, like we all said earlier, like writing our story and talking about it is healing. And that's what this community is all about. So thank you all for sharing. And we have about 10 minutes. So if anybody wants to ask questions or share anything.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, for anybody new to Scars to Stars, a great way to get connected is to join our Scars to Stars Facebook, and continue these conversations. And also, can you talk a little bit about the Hope course on the foundation page? Because I think that would be great information for people to have.
Absolutely. We do have the Facebook group, and we have, I think, a little over 100 people in there, and it's a really awesome space. It's safe, it's private. You can meet each other, support each other, post positive things, post struggles, whatever it is. The Hope course, it kind of came out of what I've seen over the last 2.5 years doing these conversations and this work. And the questions that I was getting a lot were how I don't, either people who are struggling that don't know how to talk about it or who to talk about it with, and they don't want to go to therapy and they don't want to call a hotline. And don't get me wrong, we need all of those things. but we also need a safe space where people can connect and talk and have conversations. And the other thing that I got probably even more was questions about someone who had a loved one that was struggling with suicidal ideation, and how do I help them? What do I say? How do I support them? And there are people in this Zoom room right now who have called me and asked me that question. And so I think it was really important for us to address it. So what we did was we made a 4-video course that's free on the landing page of our website. And it talks about 4 things, and it's an acronym of HOPE. So H is, how do we talk about it? How do you ask for help? How do you support someone? And the biggest thing I want to say about that is, if you have someone that in your life that's struggling and you don't know what to do, the absolute worst thing you can do is say nothing and walk away. So please, please, please don't do that. If someone's struggling and you don't know what to say, just let them know that you're there. You're there to support them in however they want you to, and ask them what they need. Maybe it's like, let's go to a movie, let's go on a hike. Maybe it's something that's, we're not talking about suicidal ideation, or maybe they do want to talk about it, but let them drive how they get supported, but let them know that you're there for whatever that is. And I think that was the most important question I've gotten over the past couple of years. The O in HOPE stands for own your self-care. And that means, finding self-care, like that coping mechanism download I told you about on our website under resources, that has a lot of ideas, but like, what is it that you do for yourself that recharges you, that gives your brain a break, that is non-distracted? Like, I always use the shower as an example, because you're in the shower, you have no distractions, you're alone, you have thoughts, the hot water gets more blood to your brain, like all of those things. So, what is it for you that you can do daily, even if it's just 10 minutes? Maybe it's breathing, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's music, whatever it is. What can you do for you every day to help you recharge? The P is for protect your mind. And the theory behind that is, who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with people that tear you down, or people that build you up and support you? And for those of you who have people in your life who are tearing you down, or you're in an abusive situation, this community is safe. This is a place you can come and connect with anybody that you feel like you're drawn to and have a conversation. So that's really important. And then E is enjoy the little things, which is all about gratefulness. And I even talk about the grateful dice in that video. So anybody can watch those videos on our homepage, and they're each like 5 minutes or less. It's not a lot of time, but I think the messages are really important. And that's why we made it free and put it on the website. So thank you, Lisa, for reminding me to talk about that. Does anybody else have anything they want to share, or questions for any of the authors or about the foundation? Okay. I didn't get to look at all the chat yet. So did everybody get their book? Awesome. So what I want to do now, if nobody has anything else, I'm going to give you one last second to say something. If you do, just raise your digital hand, and then I can see you, and that's in reactions at the bottom of your screen. The next thing I want to talk about is, how did all these people get involved in this project? Because, oh, Anita, you have a question? Or was that on purpose? Okay, I don't know. Anyway, the way everybody got involved in these books was kind of a little random in the beginning, because it was something I was starting, but we had done 2 virtual summits that had 15 speakers each. And so we had these 30 people who had already been involved in some way. And several of you are on this call right now. And so what we did was I talked to all the authors that were on the summits and asked them if they were interested, and some of them were. And then I kept meeting other people and more people, and just having these conversations, and people who are interested in telling their story. And I will say that after we started announcing this book launch, I had 5 people reach out to me and say, hey, I want to be in the next book, and when is that going to happen, and what does this look like, and all of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this twice a year moving forward. And we're going to release a book in May for Mental Health Awareness Month and in September for Suicide Prevention Month. And what that looks like is we need about 2.5 to 3 months prior to launch date to get this together. I know Michael's looking at me like, you gave me 2 days. But anyway, I talked to him about it at the last minute. But you did a wonderful job in a very short period of time. So we do have people who already are going to be in the 3rd book. And so we're probably going to start that process in late February. And so, like I said, we're going to do it twice a year. So if any of you on the call maybe have a feeling you want to talk about your story in a book, or you know somebody that does, you can always share it with us. We're going to be adding something to our website with like a testimonial video, which will be some of the authors you saw earlier that just talk about the writing experience and how they were involved. And then there's also going to be a place they can submit an application, like their information, what their story's about, what they want, what message do they want to convey to the world. So we can collect all of those. And what we'll probably do is accept about 20 to 25 per book. And then we'll just keep this process going. And we've had 2 books now that are, I see you, Corrine. We have 2 books now that have hit bestseller status. So it is truly a best-selling Amazon series, which I'm super excited about. And the reason that excites me so much is because it means more people are reading it, which means we are helping more people. We are reaching more people. There are more people in the world knowing they're not alone in whatever they're going through. So that's why it means so much to me. It makes me emotional. But so I'm going to give you all another chance. Does anybody else want to share? Okay, Dan.
I would just like to thank I would just like to thank all the authors for the time and energy that they've put into this project, and also for donating the proceeds to the foundation, which is amazing. And just to thank you, Dina, for all that you do. It's like herding cats, I'm sure, trying to keep us all together and put these books together. But we appreciate you. We really do.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate everyone who's been part of both books and the cause in general. It's been pretty amazing. The feedback I get, even from like on the first book, one of the first things I ever heard back was one of my mom's friends, who I've known since I was a kid, went and bought several books and donated them to all the libraries in her area. And I've had other people who said they donated them to jails. They don't, and I really still need to get a system in place to donate them to homeless shelters, because I feel like, the more people we can reach, the more people we can help and invite into our community and get the support they need. So thank you, Lisa, for bringing up things that I always forget, because I have to either read or I have to go by memory, because I can't memorize things. My brain doesn't work that way. Dan, you were going to say something?
Well, first of all, I'm sort of tired of following Lisa and you, particularly Lisa, because she always says the greatest things in a great way, and she did it once again. So I echo her comments. But I do want to kind of give a pitch for the Realize Foundation. We're focused on Scars to Stars, the book. I just have to say, Dina's idea for the Realize Foundation came about, as she mentioned, 2.5 years ago. She has been donating her time and her money to make this foundation grow and evolve. And certainly Scars to Stars is not only brilliant because of its impact on the authors and those who read about the stories, but also because it does generate some funding for the Realize Foundation. I encourage each of you to, one, be aware that there are ways to just get on the Realize Foundation website and make a donation. And I strongly encourage each of you to spread the word, not only about the book, but also about the foundation. It's an incredibly unique way to address issues that are critical, particularly right now, to our young people for whom suicide seems like a reasonable idea. It's depressing, and this is one very effective way, as you've all witnessed, to let people know that it doesn't have to go that way. So please spread the word about the book, spread the word about the Realize Foundation through your network, and be sure people know that there are other ways to get involved and help, which is through donations. Thank you all for all that you've done. You're amazing, every one of you. And I just want you to know, I, as a person, former author, and an author in the first book, and a member of the board, thank you very much for all of that.
Thank you, Dan, so much. And I'm going to piggyback on that a little bit because, you know, you guys saw Deb in the videos we showed, and she's on an airplane right now, so she could not be here. But Deb is somebody that I was introduced to before our very first summit, because there was somebody else in a virtual group with me that knew her and knew what I was doing. And she introduced us. We had a call the first time for about an hour, and Deb was not in a good place at all. And she has willingly let me talk about this. I would not do it without her permission. But she came to the first summit, and she wouldn't turn her camera on, and she didn't want to talk. And I kept kind of prodding her, and she's like, everybody in the group kept prodding me, and I didn't want to. And then 6 months later, after we did our 3-day event, which she did participate in, she spoke at the second summit. And then she wrote a chapter in both of these books. And she is a completely different person now. If you go back and look at you know, I don't have our summit recordings published, but, you know, I know Bill was at that event when she first came, and maybe a couple other of you, but she literally was so closed off and didn't want to speak, and she wouldn't look you in the eye, and she's just a completely different person. And I asked her, I said, Deb, what in this journey helped you the most? Like, what is it that we did that helped you? And she said, the 3-day event, because she got to get in breakouts like we did today, and she got to meet other people, and she got to have one-on-one conversations. And then also a lot of the exercises we did, we only did one today about gratefulness, but we have more of that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start doing events again, and they're not going to be 3 days. I think they're going to be 1 day and maybe 5 or 6 hours, but we will have some speakers. We will do exercises. We will get in more breakouts. We'll have more conversations. And the next one we're going to do is October 22nd. So it's in 1 month from today. And it is on our website. I may change how we're registering because I had some issues this time using Wix, but I will let everyone know on the everybody I have an email for. I'll let you know how to sign up for it. And we are looking for, I really, my vision is us doing those events like once a quarter. And I would love to get like a corporate sponsor for those events. And it could be multiple people. It could be one corporation or whatever, but there's a lot of corporations right now that are looking for a way to get involved with mental health and support it. And I think that it would be an easy ask, because it doesn't have to be a lot of money. I mean, it would be nice if we could get a sponsorship of like $5,000 for each event, but even if it was less than that, or it was 2 or 3 people together, that would cover all of our expenses for the event. And have, you know, tech people. But anyway, So that's kind of what my ask is if anyone knows corporate people who want to get involved in mental health and sponsor one of our events, I would love to talk to them about it. And I am working on a PDF with more information so that can be shared. And I'll probably just put it on our website when I get it done. So now, does anybody have any questions? Okay, Linda.
What an amazing opportunity. Such a great event, Dina. And it's been wonderful being a part of it, being your only Canadian here. And I think maybe Chuck was, maybe not sure. Anyway, it's fantastic being, okay, I am. All right. It's fantastic because we can order the book from anywhere, as well as when you think about the sponsorship and the support of that summit idea. I think that's brilliant. And I just wanted to, get to know a little bit more about how we can participate in the summit. How can we make mental health something that we can talk more about in a easier way. And it doesn't have anything to do with just being isolated to your own country, right? To be able to be that international. Is it something you're focusing on? You want to just stay in North America? Is it something you're opening to across the world and to, neighbor country?
Well, we have international involvement. Taj that's here is from Jamaica. You're from Canada. We had 2 or 3 people from Canada in the first book. We've had people attend things from Australia and New Zealand. So yeah, and then Darren spoke on our second event. He was from the UK. So we definitely are open to everybody and anybody. And I think Taj has been involved in this pretty much from the beginning too. And I don't know, Taj, do you want to say anything about your involvement? I'm putting you on the spot.
Especially when it comes to supporting the Realize Foundation, right? It's wonderful to be that person involved in a book, but, to really sort of continue uplifting the awareness and the support to the foundation.
Well, I have all of you on a mailing list now, so I haven't been good at sending out emails, but I have a new platform that I can do that easier, and I will keep in touch more often for sure. But Taj, did you want to say something, or are you like?
Sure. Yeah. No, it's been a great experience. I remember the first summit was great as well. And during that time I was at work. And I just remember trying to box out some time for it, but like so much was going on, hearing all the different stories, and it was helping me a lot. And even though I was a participant and I was helping out and what have you, at the same time, I felt like I was getting way more than I was giving, which is kind of imbalanced. But, kind of the same thing with this too. It was so therapeutic with writing all this and putting everything down. And even going through the process, because I changed what I wrote initially, because I started to dig out some things. I was like, yeah, I'm not ready to go there. And going through that, I was like, yeah, that will be a chapter that I can write maybe in a couple of years, and that was really helpful to me and going through this whole thing. And I think the first event also, the workshop that you did after that, I had a family member come to that, which was going through some tough times at that time. So this whole thing's been just a great experience from start to finish. And I'm very grateful to be on the journey. Just to be able to share what I went through and be able to connect with other people and hear their amazing stories, because even watching that video was just, just amazing to me. I'm sitting here and so I was like, wow, I was like falling out of my chair. I couldn't believe, like, even though it was just short clips, it was great. So I'm just grateful to be here with all you wonderful people and, be on this thing.
Thank you, Taj. So Linda, did you have anything else to say? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, just congratulations to everyone. And what you're providing here, Dina, has made a world of difference, and in big ways and small ways. We've all been touched by it. Family members who have experienced a lot of mental health issues and not knowing how to help them was probably the biggest obstacle. So just being a part of this situation has given me at least that first forward step to realize there are things we can do.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
And there's also, I think that, Jacob, who is not here, but he was the guy that spoke towards the end with blonde hair. He actually works with me here in Telluride, and he is starting to produce events for people. And he was like, "Can we do an event in Telluride?" And I was like, "I don't want anything to do with putting events together anymore in person because I did that forever." But I said, if you wanna put it together, I'll show up and I'll I'll help you. And so we're doing an in-person book launch here for the first time in Telluride on September 28th. And I know we're very remote and very far from most of you, but if any of you want to come, you're welcome to. But it'll be on the 28th, and we're gonna show the 2 videos you saw about writing and about the chapters, so the people here can see all of you and learn what it's about. And because I've lived in this town longer than anywhere in my life except for where I grew up, and I've moved a lot. So it's kind of cool to have this really small town maybe see what we're doing and get them to like see that there's a virtual world out there. It's not just a ski mountain all the time. But it's a cool place. I'm very thankful to live here, and I think our community needs this too. And so maybe we can start, if any of you have a community where you want to do something in person, let's talk about it, because the sky's the limit. We can grow all kinds of ways from here, and it's just how do we reach more people and help more people and let them know they're not alone. And Trianda, you have your hand raised. So you want to say something? Oh, there you
go. To share a little bit, like with Linda, like when she was talking about the summit, because I started also the process of writing for the first volume. But it's just different dynamics and trajectories when you're putting it in words versus when you're speaking it. And so even though I didn't complete the process with the first volume, I did participate in the summit, right? And so in that, it was also a self-healing process, because I was able to share those tools and those processes that helped me get to the place where the second volume, I was able to put all of that into words, right? And frame it into one chapter. There's a lot of chapters, but the one chapter, right? And so I'm excited about the next book and where that comes from, because it wasn't even planned. I had no idea. I started out one way, and my chapter became a live story on paper immediately. And so I truly believe if I had not had that experience of participating and being a participant in that summit, I'm not sure what position I will be in right now, after experiencing some things. And so, yes, I'm looking forward to it and excited about that, and on board with pushing and helping support the summit in conjunction with a book launch, because some people may not read the book or participate with the book, but they will sit through the summit.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And maybe in our October event, we can talk about what that's going to look like, because and Trianda, I just want to acknowledge like the really, really hard time in your life you were going through when I was prodding you to give me this chapter, as well as a couple other people that are here. I know it was bad timing for some of you, but I think, like you said, it kind of helped you get through it. And I'm so glad to hear that, first of all, but I'm also glad that you got to put your story in this book, because I know it's going to help others. Gail.
Yo,
what's going on?
I wanted to contribute my voice to this experience. And on the heels of what Trianda had said, I have been shedding tears for almost 3 days straight, and these are good. This is a good thing. So I come to this visual moment with these puffy eyes and thinking this couldn't be better to be look like been hit by a Mack truck, because this is such a real forum, right? All of it is raw, real, transparent, authentic, yummy, hard, gorgeous, intense, the whole full spectrum. And so I besides the honor of being in the company of people who are keeping it real, I have been involved in a 5-day challenge, as you, I think, Lisa and Dina know about, called Speak. And whoa, woo, talk about bringing yourself forth. Now, why I'm saying this is because there is something to embodied storytelling, and it's really an art form, but inside of the expression of verbalizing your story and articulating it, writing it is a beautiful thing. And that's almost to me, the door opening. And yet the summit allows for us to give voice to the whole articulation of what's in our soul and in our experiences. And in that, it's like you give permission for everybody else around you to just go into those sticky places and those moments that are ouchy, but there's so much beauty in that. And so it's not only for our own sense of just like an alchemy of nourishment and transmutation, and just eliminating those denser energies, allowing them to be used to source light and goodness and beauty and connection and radical healing. And so I'm super stoked to just say, we Hawaii people say stoked, and it's like that for me. I'm stoked to be involved in this project, because Dina, it was the impetus for all that's occurring in my life, where I'm stepping out of a really self-imposed little box, living small and censored, and it's been painful to live that way. So to go into the heart of a painful experience from the past and articulate it, express it in writing, express it verbally, has actually liberated almost every stuck place I can imagine. I've never been so full of expectancy and a sense of the miraculous as I am now. And I know this writing journey and the potential to speak at the summit, these things, I give great thanks. And Dina, you are the wind beneath my wings for all of this. So your ripple effect, what we call the ROI, ripple of impact, is huge. Is huge. And it comes with you, little Trojan horse. You just look so sweet and you talk so sweet, but you are a powerhouse and mighty and the central driving force behind all of this. So I give you great thanks from my heart, every cell and corpuscle of my being, to all of us to be engaged in this way. It's nothing short of remarkable that we can touch humanity on this level.
Thank you, Gail. That was beautiful.
I mean it.
Ripple of impact. We all have to use that now. That has to be like the phrase for the Realize Foundation. Ripple of impact. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anyone else who wants to talk? Okay. Well, I think that it's been an amazing day, and I was going to play a video with those testimonials for people to tell their story, but I realized most of it was in the video that you already saw, so I'm not going to do that right now, but I will post it separately on our website once we get an application process figured out, so people can send us their stories and say they want to be part of this. But we, like I said, we already have, I think, 5 or 6 people that are wanting to be in it, and some of them are even like already emailing me like, when can we start so I need a little bit of a break before we start the next one, and some of you might know this, but I have a book of my own coming out in like 10 days which I'm super excited about and also super nervous about. So I might share that with you guys as well and on my email list. But I I have another video we're going to play at the end, and it's just a fun video, and it will kind of leave us in a good mood, and then that will be the end of our event. And for anybody who missed the beginning, as soon as this recording processes, I will have it up on YouTube on the Realize Foundation, so you can watch the beginning. Minus it, if you missed the beginning, we played one music video that can't be on YouTube. It's called Truth Be Told by Matthew West, and it's a really good song. And the one we're going to play at the end, which I also can't leave in the video because of YouTube, is called I Smile by Kirk Franklin. So those are the two videos that you can watch outside of the recording of here. And they're both really good. So I can't believe it's like the end. Well, I want to thank you. I want to thank our board, Lisa and Dan and Anita, for being here, and thank James for all of his knowledge that he gives us. And I want to thank all of the authors. You guys are all amazing and incredible from both books. And I just am thankful for you. And I also just want to say that all of us are not alone. We are worthy. We are enough. And no one can tell us different. And if they do, you just need to come to our group, and you will know the truth, because there are mean people in the world that, you know, they probably need this group more than we do. So you can invite them too. But thank you all so much for being here. And I'm probably forgetting to say something, but I will email you all if I remember something I forgot. And I really appreciate you all being here and sharing your love with the world. Okay, I'm going to play this song, and it's going to leave us all in a really good mood for the rest of the day. And my husband plays it for me all the time, which is where I first heard it. He knew I was having a bad day, and I came in the living room, and he plays YouTube videos on the TV all the time. And so he had this playing, and I was like, I was in a bad mood. So at first I was like, I don't want to hear this. It's positive. And then after I listened to it, I was like, it made my day for the rest of the day. And now I listen to it all the time. So it's called I Smile. And I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you soon. Okay. Let me see if I can do this right this time. Okay. Thanks for bearing with my tech skills.
After doing this the first time with the previous book, which was really quite an undertaking.
Sorry, that was the one I was gonna play and decided not to. Okay, here we go.